Okay, February 8th of 2024. We know what this is. This is the website that I work on. Or I did. Anyway, it has such a thing on it called a constitution. Okay? Now, when I wrote this constitution, I was thinking continental in terms of Canada, the United States, and obviously even Mexico, right? But when I filed for the trademark, Canada and the United States, the trademark agent basically told me just to focus on those two countries and not worry about the UK and not worry about Mexico and other and so on, because otherwise I'd have to pay. Okay. Either or, I was provoked to do this, people, because back in the day, and I basically got online in 1999, right? I got my first computer. It was around 98, 99. And I'm on BitChute, okay? And they had like talk radio and Prison Planet, Black Voices, whatever. Anyway, you know, the United States, they had a high level of poverty compared to Canada. And we had a better safety net system in Canada, right? Back in those days, you know, and I wanted to be part of the solution. We know I was housebound with 5 kids, and Uncle John being blind, and couldn't go out and work, and, you know, I tried to do my sewing, but that didn't, so okay, whatever. And I used to do a lot of message boards. Lucy, Deb, April, Bailey, they all know I like to yada on comments. I mean, just yada. I'll type. Okay, well, you can take that back to Black Voices, Black Planet, because they had really good message boards back in those days. And of course, Prison Planet was around, and talk radio, and, you know, Alex Jones with his yada. Okay, so, and then, you know, I was like, you know, putting my 2 cents, being a computer Rambo, I guess you could say, right? And, you know, those Americans, they said, oh, you know, shut the heck up, you know, before you think you can come in, you know, United States sitting up in the great white north, you need to go and fix your own country first, you know, like, right? You know, it's like, it's, you know, like chalk it up or step back. Well, okay. So you think I'm not serious. You think I'm just a computer Rambo. You think I'm just talking hot air. Well, fuck you. I'll step up to the plate. And that's exactly what I did, people. I stepped up to the plate. And not only did I step up to the plate for Canada, I also stepped up the plate for the United States of America. Okay? Because some asshole, more than one, probably working for Alex Jones, was beaking off at me as much as I was beaking off at them, saying, well, you know, if you got 13 prisons being built in California under Bill Clinton and only 1 college, then obviously you have a problem. And, you know, it's going to take more than just a few people to fix the problem. But, you know, we have to deal with institutional racism and da-de-da-da-da, and they didn't want to hear it, people, you know, and just keep your ass in Canada and fix your own country. So that's what I tried to do, but I never left the children behind in the United States of America, because whatever was going on for the kids in Canada in terms of those safety nets, I wanted those same safety nets for the children of the United States. And, you know, instead of having 13 prisons built in California in 1 year or 2 years or how many years it took to build 13 prisons compared to only one college. I wanted to reverse that and build, have the people, not me, but the people within the United States build 13 colleges and only maybe one prison. So it was my mission to figure out a way where I could present something to the Americans legally where it was possible to do that if they came together and contributed towards that goal. But of course, I never outgrew being a Canadian. And I basically have been ignored for 24 years. Till this day. Right? All right. But we can't cry over spilt milk. Okay, so now fast forward. Whatever was going on in the United States of America back in 1999, we'll take it from there, right? Has gotten, 5,000 times worse. 5,000 times worse. Not only for the American children, because it's not like Canada. If children end up like little children, babies, toddlers, kindergartners, grade schoolers, if they end up out on the streets in Canada, well, they're not out there for very long because social services will come in and swoop them up and leave the parents out on the streets as they run the kids through the foster care system on a time schedule where if the parents can't get their act together within 18 months, it used to be 2 years, but they lowered it down to 18 months, the judge can order for that child to go up for adoption, which leads into corruption. Okay? Been there, done that with Andre, with the illegal apprehension of Andre through the illegal eviction of his mother. Whereas in the United States, if a family with children, infant to teenage, end up out on the streets, the governments just basically leave them out there. Oh, sure. They build shelters where they put thousands of them into bunk beds, literally 10,000 deep. You don't find this stuff on the internet where they talk about the shelters in the United States for the families that they house something like 10,000 homeless families. And they're basically all sleeping on bunk beds, bunk bed to bunk bed to bunk bed to bunk bed. It's no way to live. And then they kind of push the families out in the morning like they would do with any homeless person, regardless of what shelter we're talking about here, whether in Canada or the United States. And they kind of wander the streets until they can go back in and have a bed for the night, right? And obviously, families will have a little more precedence than a lone male or a lone female. And that's why they end up congregating on the streets in tents and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, there are families literally sleeping under bridges and wherever they can sleep. But, you don't hear of social services going in there and removing those children because the numbers are too large. However, that's not to say that it doesn't happen, because it does, right? Where now it's even worse, and this is what I mean by that's what we were battling in 1999. 40 million children, approximately 40 million. They're still quoting the same number, 40 million below the poverty line. No, the 40 million has always been the 40 million. It was the 40 million in 1999 that were struggling with what I just talked about, that provoked me to do what I did in Canada, okay? Listen to the politicians and the news media, and they're still quoting the same freaking number. Oh, we're at 40 million below the poverty line, blah, in food insecurity, blah. No, it's more than 40 million people. It's more than 40 million. You're just not being informed of it, okay? You're being lied to as usual. It's the same old okie dokie, all right? It's like a broken freaking record. All right, so we know that we've got always the 40 million below the poverty line or just at the working poor line, right? Where many of them are homeless, whether they're completely impoverished or whether they're the working poor with, half, three quarters, like 20 million of those children sleeping in 10,000 deep shelters, sleeping under bridges, okay? Right? But we know the number is higher, not to mention the ones being scooped up by social services and, and funneled into the foster care system, right? Whether they ever get to go back home with their parents remains to be seen, because many of them don't, because they're just, I don't want to say a meal ticket for some social worker, but basically it's a budget. It's a fiscal budget that they work on. If they don't have so many kids, they don't get the full budget, right? And then it affects their paychecks. Throw in a few bonuses in there, and then it becomes organized crime. Okay? People have been murdered. What was that congresswoman and her husband, because she spoke out about it and was fighting against the trafficking of children through the foster care system. All right. So, of course, I don't want to see that happen to kids. No. Or to families, right? Because my heart was in the right spot, even though I got American dickheads sitting up at Prison Planet telling me to fuck off and look after my own people in Canada, that I had absolutely no right to come in with any kind of solution because I wasn't an American. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then accuse me of being a computer Rambo? All right, I'll show you, computer Rambo. I made what I did legitimate, as they still shun me. So in the meantime, now we're 24 years ahead. We know it's more than 40 million at or below the poverty line. I'm sorry, it can't be 40 million year after year after year for 24 fucking years. So forget that lie. It's probably more like 100 million, okay? And that's being conservative. As the, we've got this immigration compact. What was the immigration? I just did a video slightly on it, right? Immigration compact agreement that the U.S. did not sign up with, but that's okay. They didn't need to, because it was already in the works where they were going to open up the border, right, to cause havoc, right, so that they could traffic even more children, right, children that just disappear into the abyss. And this is why I'm turning on this computer, because it really disturbs me, as you've got apparently 250 documented quote-unquote nonprofits that are taking federal, state, and county subsidies to traffic these people into housing and foster care, into work camps, wherever, whatever, into parks, who knows. Well, many of them, I said many, because it only takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before it becomes many, where they just disappear through this system that is flawed, because it was meant to be flawed, because there's more than enough people talking about the trafficking of children. It's just, it's hard to catch the crooks, because it's so organized between the Catholic nonprofits, there's your organized religion, whatever else organized religion, because it's not just the Catholics doing it, and whatever else nonprofit that's capitalizing off of making money, of transporting vulnerable children, whether they're infants or teenagers, regardless the age, all across the United States of America, whether they're going into private homes in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, or whether they're being dropped off at shelters to live in a shelter, those stack and pack shelters, until they are needed to be transported, picked up, flown someplace else, and then drove someplace in the middle of the night to drop them off, to never hear from them again. This is where I come in, okay? I'm just putting it out there in the wind. Now, we know Alex Jones is a lot of yada, 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 right? All right, besides that point, he did an interview with a chubby kind of guy that was the, he'd go to a pickup location, pick up 5 or 6 kids from a charity, drive them to the airport, take them to the airport, get on the plane with them. Is this recording? I don't know, people. Am I wasting my time? No, it's recording. Get on the plane with them, sit on the plane with them, get off the plane, and either somebody there at the airport would pick them up, whether they were legitimate or not, because that guy couldn't necessarily always confirm that they were, or he would continue to go the extra mile to drop them off where they needed to be dropped off at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're talking children here, okay? That have no parents. All right. Well, one time he was on the plane, and I guess a little boy came up. I don't know how old he was, but he asked that man, and this is why I'm doing this video. He asked that man if that man could help him, that little boy, or maybe he was a teenager, or maybe he was a 13-year-old, an adolescent, who knows. But he was brave enough to go ask that man to help him to find his sister. Because when they came to the United States of America, through this network of human trafficking, and then handed over to their handlers, they were shipped to a shelter, and they lived in the shelter where they got to play computer games on a cell phone or whatever until their numbers were called. And I guess the sister went one way and the brother was left behind until his number was called. And then he ended up on the plane with that man saying, "Nobody knows where my sister is. My mother doesn't know where my sister is, who lives in a different country. He doesn't know where his sister is. Nobody has seen his sister for 10 months, something like that." And he asked that man to help him to find his sister as he was being moved in the middle of the night to a new location that basically ended up being a private home in a middle-class community where they opened the door at 2 o'clock in the morning. Are you listening to me? And handed him over to a nice lady. I'm not even going to put a race on it, people. Okay? With kids running around in the background or somebody moving around, where supposedly it would make that boy feel comfortable to walk into that door and not say anything. And that was it. We don't know what happened to that boy. Well, I'm here to remind you that illegal organ harvesting is fucking real. Okay? The only reason anybody would do that in the middle of the night is because somebody behind that door needed organs. I'm telling you, they're matching the victims to illegal organ harvesting before the surgery is booked. That is what happened to Shimei. It wasn't a coincidence that Julian just killed Shimei. Okay? It only took 7 hours for the recipients of her organs to go to the Surrey Memorial Hospital and receive my dead daughter's organs illegally. And then to cover up that fact, they illegally embalmed her and left her on a bed to decompose for 9 days. I can't stress it enough. So, here's my advice to Alex Jones trolls, because you know they're trolling my channel. They've been trolling me for fucking years. Okay? They just don't have the balls to meet me eye to eye and play hardball when it comes one country and another country standing up together to make it better for everybody, because that's what my nonprofit represents. What Alex Jones needs to do, or someone like him, because he knows a lot of people, so maybe Alex Jones can't do it, but I'm sure somebody can that he knows, is get in touch with that chubby guy and people like him and start getting a list of the names of these children that are disappearing, and find a way to hire private investigators through a legitimate charity to locate them, for peace of mind and prosperity for the children, including that young man who lost his sister while he was playing a computer game in a shelter. What? Did they kick out the American family to house the two young people from a different country because it was easier to steal their organs than it was the family that they were sheltering in that shelter before they got kicked out to go live underneath a bridge so that the social workers could be eyeballing them? Yeah, okay. You get my point, right? Me? The worst that's going to happen to me when I become homeless? In terms of when I leave this house, because, you know, you'll never have another house like this one because you're a lowly Canadian? Well, either Tisha's going to step up to the plate and help with Amari, or my son is going to step up to the plate and help with Amari, and we know Andre's in there helping with Amari, right? And Amari won't go into foster care. If that doesn't happen, before my government would allow me to be out on the streets with Amari, they would take Amari away from me, accuse me of this, accuse me of that. But they might leave me out on the streets as my kids come out and say, "Gee, Mom, you don't need to be out in the streets." And I'll be like, "No, fuck you. Just get away from me. I'll stay out on the streets, and I'll be a rebel warrior, and I'll fight for justice out on the streets." If Sierra could be a warrior, die, and be lured to her death out on the streets, well, I might as well spend my last days fighting a good fight. Unless, of course, they want to kidnap me, classify me as a Looney Tune, and put me in an old folks' home, because I'm blind now, right? And tuck me away like a dirty fucking secret, because they might do that yet. Or maybe they'll just take me out on the streets. Because you know I'm not going to sit quiet under my son's thumb. You know I'm not going to sit quiet under my daughter's thumb. Right? And I sure in the hell wouldn't be sitting quiet in some old folks' home. I'd be like plotting and scheming how I could bust loose out of there. Blind as a bat. I wouldn't care. I'd be crawling on my fucking knees to get out of there. And still fighting for justice. They have to kill me to shut me up. I'd be starting a revolution with the elderly people as I'm plucking out a song on the piano in the what is that room called? You know, the common area. So, right? But that's one way to combat the rumors of, where's my sister? We haven't seen her for 10 months to a year. My mother is worried for my sister. Why are you dropping me off at a home at 2 o'clock in the morning in the dark to some person's house living in the suburbs that I don't even know? right? With a big smile on her face. The only reason that person has a big smile on her face is because one of her kids is receiving the organs of the ones being dropped off. And this is where people need to start investigating and making sure that these kids are not being harvested illegally. Because that's what's happening. Not to mention the homeless people, the people that are being murdered in their houses, you know, and then, you know, like, seriously, how many organs do you really need? Think about it. There's only so many people that need organs. Some of this stuff, I'm sure, is going into our food chain, people. I'm positive of it, okay? And if it's not that, they're using it for the hybrid robotoids with the electrodes in the hair that come in as a quote-unquote professional coroner service officer. Yeah, if you're so professional, why you got glowing fucking motherboard in your hair with a white blank face with absolutely no color in it? I'm going to pull up that video, and I'm going to pull up the pictures, and I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to prove to you that that coroner that kicked me out on the day that my daughter died, Sierra, okay, I've had two, remember that, Sierra, with that baby-faced cop guarding the door, trying to prevent me from identifying my own dead daughter's body, with the coroner standing there, and I panned the camera, and I caught her, and then I put a zoom to her face, and I'm telling you, she's got fucking motherboards in her hair. How do I know that? Because they're square or rectangular. Hairspray doesn't work like that, people. And if you're a human, you have color to your face. But then I do also believe that they're putting the skin of human beings onto their robotoids as they're phasing out humans from legitimate employment positions. More reason to put a break on the trafficking of human beings, whether they're babies, toddlers, young children, adolescents, teenagers, and vulnerable people. As they're bringing in the UN soldiers. They don't act like UN soldiers. But if you look around you and you see what the hell is going on, it doesn't take long to figure out what they really are and where your place in life is in your own country. Okay. So let's listen to this for a second, and I'm going to end it on this. Now, I did want to show you my soup. Well, it's not soup, but I think this is really important. And for the trolls trolling me on BitChute, picking up that info so they can import it into their own spiel of whatever it is that they're shooting for when it comes to attention. Maybe they'll pick up on that. Well, yeah, we need to start like putting together groups that are specifically designed to investigate the disappearance of these vulnerable people, mainly children, at the request of family members. Even if it's a little boy on the airplane at 3 o'clock in the frickin' morning going into some stranger's home to never be heard or seen from again. And it happened to his sister. So if it already happened to his sister, why wouldn't it happen to him? Especially under the circumstances of how he was delivered.
We have starving American citizens on the streets a block away. Makes no sense.
And then just the hellish, and again, the globalists are really good. Some are kind of the military-aged men, some are women with children, some are just the children. They divide them up and send them to different places.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the Row NYC, which, you know, it's insane. It used to be, I guess it still is, but it's not being used for this anymore, the 5th largest hotel in New York City, if you can imagine that. I mean, this is prime real estate, 1 block from Times Square.
Oh my God. When I heard this, my jaw dropped. Like, you can't even imagine how I felt when I heard this, people.
That one is primarily family units. Then you go to Randall's Island. That's like the African camp. There's some South Americans in there as well, but it's mostly Africa. You're talking Senegal, you're talking Guinea, you're talking Morocco, all sorts of other countries in there as well. I mean, men that don't speak a word of English that are in there. And then you have Floyd Bennett Field, which is, again, family units, a lot of South Americans. And, these people are living there. They are saying that they're waiting for their Medicaid. They're waiting for asylum. And they are allowed then to get onto buses. There's buses, for example, that leave from Floyd Bennett Field. Anybody who's not familiar with that, that was also the place that went viral about a month ago when they sent these people into a Brooklyn school to sleep, and they actually had to send the students home. That was the same place. And there are buses that come every day to pick these people up.
You've got children in the United States of America who are homeless, sleep on the freaking streets, and go to school. They don't get the privilege of sleeping at the school, okay, people? They sleep in cars. They sleep wherever their parents can find a place for them to sleep.
And bring them into, like, central Brooklyn so they could go into the mall or go work at a job or whatever, and they get...
Not out here. They just take the kids and throw your ass out. And they hope you become drug addicted like Sierra. That's what happens out in Canada. So you can see the big difference between the two countries and why I would do what I did back in 1999, considering Canada had at least, But look what Canada has turned into, though. Look what Canada has turned into. Never in 1999 would I have fathomed that I couldn't find a house to rent. Never mind, never be able to rent another house under the circumstances of 2024, and at what costs, and for how long, and to whom is going to be targeted next.
Come back to Floyd Bennett Field and sleep for free. And, that's what's going on. But those are the sort of groups that you see. It's different groups at different places.
So they know, again, we already know this, but now the public's finally getting it, that it's UN run with the State Department and these charities, NGOs, and it's all completely organized all over the country. And it's just record numbers coming.
And that's another thing. I want to show you something, actually. I'm going to show you after I hang this up. Shut it up. I'm going to show you. And I'm going to tell you the fear that I have around what I have. Because what he is talking about, what they're going to go on to talk about and stuff, honestly, people, it's happening in Canada. It is. I know it is. I can feel it in my bones. And I'll show you an example of why I feel that way when it comes to children being exploited.
They're broken up into groups, sent to Democrat areas, put in houses. The Democrats sign them up for welfare, milk the money, sign them up with law firms.
That's all happening here, too, in British Columbia, Canada, right across the country, people. Only it's being done legally. Yeah, we don't do anything illegally out here, except maybe illegally harvest organs and then illegally embalm them, and then pretend like it never happened because the government will protect our ass. Yeah, okay.
Milk the money, NGOs milk the money, community organizers milk the money, and then they also put them literally in slave labor at factories and sign them up for welfare and then steal the money. So they're not just people that they're going to get to voting.
Yeah, that's what the landlords do. Stuff 7 into a 2-bedroom upper floor house, which is the equivalent of a small rancher, and charge them $2,200 a month. And then come back and say, give me more rent, and if you don't, get the fuck out, because we've got another family with 8 people to stuff them into that house, and we can get $3,000 for the same square footage. Yeah, okay.
Illegally, they're literally farming them.
Yeah, they're farming them here in Canada too, people.
100%, 100%. I mean, first off, the video that we put out, it shows 3 of these centers, and for sure these are the larger of the centers. But there are tens or almost going into the hundreds of these centers just in the lower New York. Now go across the entire country.
And again, these are colonies under Cloward and Piven that'll never have jobs, just like Europe. 10 years later, after the Islamic invasion, run by the European Union and the EU, the UN. 90+% don't have jobs. 80+% are military-age men. They just sit there on welfare, a tool of the state. And when the liberals get
Happening out here too.
the order, they burn everything down.
They go on long-term disability, drive their little freaking mopeds, and sell heroin. Not all of them, but they want the Canadian dream. They want the monster home, like the Punjabis if they're Muslim. Or if they're Punjabi, they want the monster home. Right? They want to be the owner of the stack and pack building with the plastic pipes and the leaky basements.
Exactly. Well, what you just said it right there, Cloward and Piven.
The Chinese, same way.
That's what this is. This cannot be sustained. Just like everything else we're doing cannot be sustained, but it's just more strain, more stress in the system, and it's going to collapse. And, you know, in its place, the only thing that's going to be left is the giant totalitarian state when it's all said and done. And these people will be minions of that state because, you know, he who pays the piper picks the tune. And, you know, these people are the pipers, millions of them, that are just sitting getting welfare. And you already know who they're going to vote for. We include that in the video, asking, you know, who do you support in the election? Biden, of course. Yes, that's what's going on. You know, we could also get into the unaccompanied children because I saw a lot of that up in New York as well.
This is what I want to hear. And then when I feel satisfied after he's done talking about the children, I'm going to go get something. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to tell you my feelings around it. And then you'll understand why I'll fight to the bitter end for what I've been fighting for. Because this is sad.
Well, some pretty incredible stuff.
That's the key, and I got a lot of your clips, but if you tell us where to go in the videos, we'll show that. I saw the video that was sent by Border Patrol a few days ago of them crying in Texas because they've seen the children before, a month before, and the kids are begging, please don't send us with the NGO, and they're ordered to and put them in a van to drive away.
And that I do believe, people. That I do believe. I seen that video, and they were big-ass fucking men. Big like my burly-ass son. Remember, my son comes from Texas. That's where his dad lives. So he's got Texas genes, and my son is big and burly. And these were big, burly men. And I just didn't get the feel that that was something that they wanted to do what they were doing. So I agree with Alex Jones on that one, right? Because if they don't do it, oh my God, they'll get arrested. They'll lose their jobs. They'll get targeted. Right? Their family members will start disappearing. One here, one will be snatched up over there. Yeah, that's the kind of shit we're dealing with.
Away, and the Border Patrol starts crying. I mean, this is pure evil. Mayorkas, who
Hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. A whole lot of hours later. Amari, I don't know. I got these, I don't know if you want to call them ankle bracelets, but they're just made from a hard plastic. And anyway, they were on Amari's feet, and he twisted himself somehow, did something. And now I think his ankle is sprained because of it. Obviously the right foot, right? I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with him. I don't know if he has to poo or if it's the ankle, which I'm pretty sure it is, but it also could be maybe he has to poo too. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen, people, when they give him hip surgery. Those things that they gave me where they spread his legs apart with a bar between them, he broke them within a week. Because he's strong. Like, seriously. They'll give him hip surgery. He'll be, you know, for the first little while, he won't want to do nothing. But once he figures out how to start moving around, he'll bust out of them. And then the pin will pop. And then they're going to want to book him again for surgery. Like, well, it's the same thing with these ankle bracelets. He moves around too much. He's moving around, and he twisted it, did something, because his foot goes like this. So, you know, you put it in this plastic thing that holds it like this, right? Versus like this. And, he's moving, and I don't know. Anyway. So, let's get back to this. He is either an enabler, controlled opposition, or who he says he is. In regards to what I'm discussing here, and I guess other things as well, because as it is, he's calling himself a reporter, and that's why he does what he does. He portrays himself as if he's coming in with some solutions by having investigative reporting being done in the, something for him to report on. But it all just seems like surface scratching, which kind of feeds into fear porn, which kind of leads towards being an enabler, or at least maybe controlled opposition. Because for as much people as there are in the United States of America, for the one whistleblower, I guess you could say, that came forward on Alex Jones' show, talking about dropping children off at random houses after flying for hours on an airplane, to only get off the airplane, get into some van or something, or Uber or who knows what, to go into the suburbs to drop off children at 2, 3, 4 in the morning when everybody's sleeping, into middle-class neighborhoods. Just hand over the kids and walk away. As they're asking the person that dropped them off if they can help them find their sister, because they haven't seen their sister or heard from their sister for almost a year. Okay, well, if you're going to report on that, I'm sure out of 340 million Americans, a few minds put together to be Inspector Gadgets to go find his sister, well, then you'd be producing some results. But as it is, he just puts the fear out there, him and his crew. They'll talk about the sister disappearing. They'll talk about the children being dropped off to random strangers in the middle of the night. But where is the documentation to hold people to account? Where's the crumbs leading to the sister? And how many sisters and brothers are missing when it comes to children, outside of, 85,000 kids went missing from being illegally smuggled into the United States of America through human trafficking, but we don't know who they are or where they went. I don't know, people. I'm sure this guy could do a better fucking job. Okay. For all these people who supposedly care, it wouldn't be that hard to rustle up a group to really start doing, I guess you could say, investigative work. Oh, maybe they are doing it and they're just not reporting on it, but I find that to be highly unlikely, and that's why I'm doing this video. So we got cut off. I'm not exactly sure where I was, so we're just going to start here and just go forward. Come on. Why are you not going? Oh, lovely. My internet is off. I'll be back. Okay, I think I got my internet back. And that's another thing. Does he ever support a charity? Like, actually support it? Versus, I know he promotes them for the ones that he interviews, in terms of like that black woman who's a doctor in Texas that's African. I can't think of her name right now. All right, he'll promote her, but I don't think he supports her in terms of, because she supports him with his multiple lawsuits all the time, or to support the program. But he, I'm just saying, right? Come on. You should be working. I have the internet now. Of course not, right? Oh, Lord. Oh, my Lord. I didn't get to sleep until like 2 o'clock this morning. And because Amari twisted his foot with his ankle bracelet on, I wasn't too sure what the heck was going on with him. So, I have to figure it out, right? Anyway, I managed to fall asleep for a little while, and then a little bugger, he woke up at 4:30 fussing because, something's bugging him, right? It's hurting. And I've kind of narrowed it down to his ankle with the right foot. With the right foot that was in the ankle bracelet, and with him moving around doing whatever, I don't know what he did, but he hurt himself with those ankle bracelets. So I don't think I can use them anymore. I'm going to be going to see the feeding team pretty soon, and I guess that falls in line with the physiotherapist. I'm sure we'll be around, and they'll be asking me how his ankle bracelets are, if they need to be changed, and I'll be like, well, I don't know. I don't even know if I'll be able to use them because he's too active, right? And just the way his body goes, they get in the way and pinching nerves, and, I don't know. Okay, this is not working, so where are we? We're at 1:48 into the video, so how about we refresh the video? I think the internet is working. Here we go. I have to start over again, I guess.
It's Thursday, February 8th, 2024.
And we'll go to 148.
Aliens have taken refuge in New York City, the largest sanctuary city in the United States. To handle this,
Hold on.
numerous illegal alien compounds have been established on what was once prime New York real estate.
No, I want to take it to 148. So he can give us a little introduction here, so we can get to speed. Huh?
We've talked about
Here we go.
the great work of James O'Keefe. Now they tried to shut him down, but he just came back better from Project Veritas when he got hijacked with O'Keefe Media Group. And then you've got Stephen Crowder doing the same type of infiltrations with his investigative unit, knocking it out of the park. And then you've got people like Anthony Rubin in just the last few years just exploding on the scene from Central South America, Southern North America, Northern North America.
Okay, yeah, but nobody's finding these missing kids. Sure, you can talk about 85,000 kids gone missing that are not American children, not to mention the American children going missing, but nobody can find them? Okay. Not even one? Okay. As a little boy is asking to help find his sister? Okay. Oh, come on, man.
Everywhere exposing the tyranny, knocking out of the park every week, and more people are being inspired. We're not in competition.
Alex Jones, I'm from Canada. Do you remember back in the day on Prison Planet when maybe you told me to look after my own country and to get the fuck out of yours, and I had nothing to say about it in terms of the bullshit that was going on in 1999? Come on. Come on.
We are with each other. We're in competition to stop the globalists. So
You see, that's the thing, Alex. I've never been in competition with you. But you are a very competitive man. And that's why you don't give to charity. You expect charity to give to you. I'm calling you. I'm calling you out.
So we're going to talk about his new investigative report in New York, getting into the Illegal Alien Center. And we also have O'Keefe Media Group infiltrates secret converted illegal immigrant compound in Tucson, Arizona. And then in California, our own Drew Hernandez went into the United States 6+ miles, like 7 miles, and discovered the UN
Consider this free promotion.
funded camp inside of the United States and all the illegal aliens. And he was given that information by the Border Patrol in Texas and said, you really ought to go to California. That's where this is happening, kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies. California is the place you ought to be. So he loaded up the family and moved to Beverly Hills, that is, movie stars, swimming pools, or however they say it. So it's just exciting now to see the people engaged. InfoWars and James O'Keefe and Anthony Rubin and all the other wonderful folks. And people pick other subjects like, Alex Rosen exposing the pedophiles. And it's amazing to meet all these great men. And there's a lot of women fighting too, but it's mainly men, and men are supposed to do that. And just to be involved in this. And some are old, and some are young, and some are black, and some are white, and some are, Christian, and some are Jewish, and some are Catholic. The point is that we're people that hate tyranny, and we're coming together. So it's a long report. It's up on Infowars.com. I reposted it on X. Muckraker has obtained never-before-seen footage from inside 3 of New York's secret illegal alien compounds. And what they found, the abuse, the criminal activity, the exploitation, is also across the country, 2,000 miles away, what the O'Keefe Media Group found in Tucson and what we found 500 miles away from there in Southern California. So let's air the first couple minutes of this Muckraker report. It's 26+ minutes long. It's on Infowars.com. Here it is.
We're gonna search them.
You cannot search them. Do they ever bring in weapons like knives or stuff?
Yeah, they go bring. I've seen 2 knives here.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone got stabbed at one of the gates last week.
Okay, I think we've seen that, so we're just going to move forward a little bit.
All sorts of countries in Africa, all this welfare while we have starving American citizens on the streets a block away makes no sense.
And then just the hellish, and again, the globalists are really good. Some are kind of the military-age men, some are women with children, some are just the children. They divide them up and send them to different places.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Oh yeah, right. I was going to show you something that really disturbs me in my neck of the woods. I will try and remember to do that.
So at the Row NYC, which, it's insane. It used to be, I guess it still is, but it's not being used for this anymore, the 5th largest hotel in New York City, if you can imagine that. I mean, this is prime real estate.
Right. Full of immigrants while the Americans are on the streets. Uh-huh. We seen that.
One house, and no one had been there in a month, and it was like dog manure and cat stuff and fleas. When they haven't had blood in about 3 weeks, you'd walk in and 50 fleas would jump on you, okay? And you're like, clean it as fast as you can. You want to throw up. It stinks so bad. Nobody knows. You go to a rich person's house, you love it because it's nice furniture and you move the piano and, do it. It's hard work, but you're getting 20-something bucks an hour, which is like 50 today. But the reason I quit the job and I didn't even understand it then, is that because we probably did 3 houses, 4 houses a day on a good day. They also wanted you to work like 14 hours. Is I would go to foster homes. And you'd go in, there'd be locks on the refrigerators, dirty mattresses, kids, some fat-looking pedophile dude. And just, I'm telling you, folks, not all foster parents are bad, but I'm telling you, it is the seedy underbelly. And so many liberals and Democrats, this is their business, is warehousing children. So you talk about sketchy foster homes. Tell us about that.
For sure. So one of them was in, where was it actually? It was right next to Manhattan. I believe it was in the Bronx. It was this Catholic foster home. And you would have no idea what you're looking at. But then from the outside, you're looking at this thing, and there's cameras all around. It's fenced with barbed wire fencing. And I actually managed to get in. I knocked on the door. You know, I acted like I was somebody that belonged there, and they let me walk right in. And there's all these kids just hanging out inside. And they immediately pull me out. You know, they kick me out of the place. You know, but that place, I'm outside of it, and there's all these sketchy men. Again, men that I don't even know if they speak much English. I mean, they themselves, some of them were talking to me in broken English. They seem to be foreigners themselves. Full-grown adult men that are walking in and out of this place running the show. So I'm not even sure what I'm looking at there, but doesn't look good. Let's put it that way. When you get all these cameras surrounded by barbed wire fence, looks like it's to keep people in more than keep people out, because I don't think anybody wants to get in there. There were other ones that I tailed. You know, I tailed these vans, and I show up, and they start, the van pulls into this foster home, the kids get out, and I just have my camera. I'm on public property, and the security guard is coming up to me, getting in my face like he's about to clock me. I'm like, dude, I'm on public property. What are you doing right now? This looks really bad. And, you know, they're about to get violent with me. And, you know, this is what's going on. So you got to ask, why the level of secrecy? I think we know, like you said, these foster homes are not good. There's a lot of trafficking that happens through some of these places. I'm not naming names until we have more evidence, but that's...
Okay, until we have more evidence. Well, that's good. They need to start collecting names of children going missing and actually looking for those children.
What's going on, man? And there was another thing we did, which was down in Texas, again by these Walmart facilities. Carlos Arellano and I, who I know you had in your show, he's a great guy. We went down there, and we would wait outside, and we would wait for some of these vans to pull out with kids, because we were trying to tail them. And you wouldn't even believe it. These vans would drive so sketchy, and they would actually drive in such a way where, you know, we would think we had them, and then they would just bang a corner and lose us. That's how sketchy this operation is. They're actually, like, losing us on public roads because they don't want to be followed. So that's what we saw. That's what's going on. I mean, it's going to be a massive report. It's still ongoing. But, you know, I'll say this publicly because, like I said, their operation is so large, it's like a moving train. You can't just slam the brakes on it and stop.
Yeah, well, so is illegal organ harvesting when you have the public union sector in partnership with organized religion and the government illegally harvesting organs, okay? It's the same kind of operation.
Happen all of a sudden. So I don't think it makes a difference.
Now, why it's happening? Multiple reasons, I'm sure. The point is, do we throw everybody into the same barrel of apples? Because this isn't a niche where it's just happens once in a while. It's like in every province in Canada. It's happening, I'm sure, in every state of the United States of America, right? And it's being facilitated by our public union sector. Our policing departments, our coroner offices, our justice system, our health authorities, our governments on all levels, people. Why? Why? And to be in denial, to think that all these children that are being brought over on the border, whether in Canada, because something's happening out here too, people. And that's why I gotta show you what I have that came from my neighbors next door. The house that was broken up into 3 tiny, well, the basement, yeah. In the basement, they have 3 tiny little so-called independent suites. So the landlord can get rich off of running illegal suites, as the upstairs he rents to a couple to make it look like he's legitimate, while in the basement he's renting out to 3 different individuals at maximum dollar amount, right? As he's badgering my landlady to kick me out so he can rent out and give her more money and take over this house. Okay, anyway, being that there's 3 suites in the basement, I'll just tell you, being that there's 3 independent, they're not even suites, they're rooms. Maybe 2 rooms if you're lucky, that with one of them being a small kitchen in combination of, right? They probably share bathroom, for crying out loud, and they share the laundry room, all of them. All right, and that's in the basement too, and it's just an old bungalow with the square footage of a rancher. In terms of bottom floor is no bigger than a small 2-bedroom rancher, and the top floor is no bigger in square footage than a 2-bedroom rancher. These are, how can you do this? Anyway, somebody moved out of there. Normally he has Punjabis living in there, and up on the top he's got some other brown people from, I don't know where they are, but they like to pray outside to some... they built something for themselves outside by the fence that they can pray. It has nothing to do with being Punjabi, so anyway, but they're from a different country with some different kind of religion. All right, so, and then in the basement, he normally rents out to Punjabis, right? Or to somebody from a different country, okay. So anyway, I don't know. He had rented out, I've been, ever since he bought that house, it was a grow-up. He went in there, he made the 3 different little suites, he chopped up the basement, made them into different suites, so he's got people coming and going. Okay, so one time it looked like maybe he had kind of like a white woman, and she was small like me, okay? I'm like 5'1", 105 pounds, not very big, okay? Anyway, one day there was a whole bunch of shit outside on the front. They didn't want it. Somebody put out like couch and this and that and boxes of just stuff they didn't want. So I got in there at some point, noticing it, and it was sitting there, and the rain was coming, and I said, to heck, I'll go look. So it turned out there was a bunch of clothes in the boxes, miscellaneous, this, that. You know how people do that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing that. And I pulled out all these clothes, and I brought them in, went through them, washed them, and I'm telling you people, I was pulling out little dresses that would fit a Leia May. And a Leia May is 5. But the problem they look like something a can worker would wear, or maybe a prostitute or something like that. Not a little girl. Not a little girl. And when that one woman walked by me, and I was like, I'm thinking, because I could see she was coming out from that house, from the back, which tells me she had a room. I don't even call it a suite. A room at the, in the basement. And she'd come and go, because that's what prostitutes do out here, right? They rent rooms or whatever, or suites or whatever, and they run their tricks through them, right? And so I kind of got the feel that maybe, this is over a course of time with me working in the yard, and she walks by, and I'm standing at the top of my steps, and I see her walk out, and anyway, eventually there was this big pile of shit. One box had nothing but Christmas stuff, Christmas ornaments, like brand new. And this stuff was in good shape, right? And like the Christmas tree with the bulbs and the lights and the tinsel, and just, and then the clothes, and, some of the clothes were like, okay, adult size, but some of this stuff that was like really, really tiny that would fit a small little girl, it was way too sexy. I still have it. I don't know what to do with it. I've seen it. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe, I'll chop it up, do something for dancers, like actual women, if I ever get around to sewing. And then when I actually started to look at it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, this wouldn't fit a woman. This fits a little girl. A baby. A little 5, 6-year-old. Why? Honestly, people, in my heart, I believe a little girl was being exploited in the basement of my neighbor's house next door. I do. I do. Because that's how shady people are. Because when that shit was put outside, that girl disappeared. So she moved. She found another location to go off and do whatever she did. And yeah, I think there was a little girl involved. I don't think it was just an adult woman prostituting. I think a little girl was involved, and I got the fucking clothes to prove it. Because why else would you have the shit that I've got right now that they threw out in boxes? Because it sure in the hell wouldn't have fit her. She was small, but no way. There's no way the stuff I have would have fit her. So anyway, let's get back on it. So this is why, another reason this shit disturbs me, right? I didn't found a foundation to be, hot air. Okay, let's listen.
Exactly. A lot of law enforcement will say, Jones, don't say all this. But then higher up goes, I don't want to say higher up's like smarter. They go, no, expose it all. We just need full exposure. They don't care. It's there. We need not just a James O'Keefe, not just a Drew Hernandez, not just people, like you. We need everybody to understand, folks. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. We go down to the border 2 or 3 times a year. It's everywhere. It's not like you're looking around. It's going all around you, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. It happens right under people's noses. They don't even have a clue.
Yeah, exactly. Right next door in the basement.
What's going on? And actually, you can see real quickly how you could have an atrocity. And people won't even know what's going on.
I was going to use that analogy earlier. Like after World War II, they couldn't believe that most Germans didn't know they had death camps. And Eisenhower did an investigation and found out it was true. They didn't even know.
Exactly.
Living next door to a forced labor camp, death camp, and they didn't even know.
Exactly. That was exactly the analogy I was thinking of. And that's what's going on. These camps all across the state of Texas. And if you don't, there was one that I went to in Carrizo Springs this past summer. And I show up at Carrizo Springs. I know there's a camp there. I don't know where it is, though. And I'm like, all right, let's ask locals. Surely they must know. And so I'm going to different stores. And I asked a bunch of people before I finally found one that thought maybe it might be down this road and to the right. But, and it was only a mile or so from where in this town that I was asking people, and nobody had a clue. They're like, I've never heard of such a camp being here. And there's this massive FEMA camp-looking place with thousands of children in there, and nobody has a clue. It's absolutely incredible. So you could see real quick how you could have atrocities.
Baby farms. It's not the first time in history people have done it.
Or some crazy thing that's going on, whatever it may be, and people just won't have any idea. It's actually quite scary when you think about it, what could be going on right under people's noses. But that's why we got to just put it all out and expose it.
Well, here's an interesting story about getting intel from people when Obama was in.
See, they're exposing it, but at some point it becomes porn, fear porn, right? Because this is the yada 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 coming to a climax just to start all over again. Yada 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 yada, and then coming to a climax, which kind of ends up becoming an enabler to the process, right?
And as he ramped up the invasion before Trump got in, we'll show some graphs when we come back. I had workers in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Illinois, all over, Arizona, saying, look, we're tearing out this whole Walmart. Some were small, some were big Walmarts. And so they were closing down all the little Walmarts and building supercenters. And all we know is we're putting in chains, fences, cages, toilets, for thousands of people, and they thought it was a FEMA camp. They thought it was for citizens in martial law. No, Obama, before he's told kids to rush and did the NGO, they built all that. And then Trump shut it off. I have the graph, I'll show when we come back. And then Biden just turned it back on. But those weren't FEMA camps, though they looked like them. That was the illegal alien centers they were building.
Yeah, well, as far as it being used on Americans, I mean, think about the warning from Snowden when he came out and blew the whistle, right? What did he keep saying? He said, listen, maybe it's not that much of an issue right now. You could ask, well, what's the threat? But when the totalitarian switch gets flipped, the infrastructure is in place to now surveil every single American, down to his every footstep, basically. What's going on? It's the same with all this infrastructure that's been built up, right? I mean, when the totalitarian, it's already really been flipped. When they, go to the next level, we already have all these camps that they can put the quote-unquote white supremacists and the MAGA extremists and all the rest into these camps and basically intern us there. That's already been done with the Japanese. So people, I mean, this sounded totally nuts 10, 15 years ago, and now here we are. So, that's what's going on, everybody.
I agree. Stay there. Let's come back and talk about all this. You got a lot of videos. Tell us the ones you mentioned. I haven't seen them with the kids. We've seen other ones, but I want to see these new ones you've got. We'll show that as well. But absolutely, folks. And all those construction workers that told us 10 years ago about this, they were dead on. This was being built in by Obama. All right, so Anthony Rubin and people like James O'Keefe and people like Drew Hernandez have brought us the victory. They brought...
Oh, my God.
Brought us the ammo. They brought us the truth. It's like your wife calls you and says, hey, pick this up. You're coming home from work. I'm going to cook you a special dinner. And you go get the food and you've delivered it to be cooked. But if they go out and do all this dangerous work, he's been kidnapped, you name it, Anthony Rubin has, and then we don't cook it, and the cooking it is putting it out there, then it just rots in the refrigerator. There's nothing worse when you buy some food, and then a month later you're digging through the refrigerator, God, I forgot to eat this. How did I miss this? But that isn't about your dinner, folks. This is about children and the world and the future, everything. So I want to explain something to listeners. This isn't like watching Gunsmoke when you're a kid or watching, modern, movies like The Incredibles or whatever, or all the stuff, the entertainment. This is the real world. This isn't a simulation. This isn't games. This is the invasion of the Western world. This is the takedown. And so people like Anthony Rubin at muckraker.com, those are the coordinates of now your job, if you want to win. Infowars.com is the coordinates. Real Alex Jones is the coordinates.
Come on.
When you get
sex trafficked, winding up as slaves.
The CNN and the New York Times around. So just because somebody murders somebody today in downtown Austin, the police still show up. We're like, well, people have been murdering people since the days of Cain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a social norm now. Governments don't do shit about it. They really don't, unless it's like up in your face and you can't deny it. And even then they cover it up and never find the one who murdered the one that's laying dead on the ground, right? That's how BC operates.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And as soon as we get punch drunk, which is what they're wanting to do, that two men can have a baby and all this stuff, that's designed to overwhelm you. So, Anthony, I watched your 20-something minute report you just put out. I'm so overwhelmed. I hadn't seen the footage of the smuggled kids, but you told us where that's at. So we're digging into that. So recap that while we roll B-roll to get this on record to viewers, and then give us the names of the reports so people can find them themselves and do their job, because you and I are like one hair on the end of the tail of the dog. Okay? Now, sure, we're leading it, but let's just explain it.
Exactly. He can't solve all the problems by himself, so cut him some slack. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I just feel like they can do more than what they're doing.
We're the tail of the dog, folks. It's the people that decide what happens with this info. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one thing that I appreciate about you tremendously. I mean, thank you so much. Guys, I'm Michael Yon. It's all about, you hear the word force multiplication, right? That's where, like, special forces, they'll fall behind enemy lines, and they'll generate forces internally, right? And then they'll have enough force to actually go and fight whatever enemy it might, may be there. And that's what's going on. That's what we need to do. We need to continue to force multiply. That's what people like you and people like Michael Yon have done for people like me. That's what I want to do for others. That's the only way we're going to win. If you're in this and you're just trying to make a quick buck and you're trying to tear other people down and you're viewing everybody as, competition that needs to be dealt with, we're never going to get anywhere. And honestly, you might as well not be in this, because there's not, you're going to make more money going into some sort of industry than doing this. So That's what this is all about. As far as I'm concerned, I appreciate you as well. I mean, we got to save this republic because we are on borrowed time, man. We are on the verge of extinction, about to go the way of the dodo bird. But
and let's get into this footage. But I want to explain something to listeners. I know most of them get it, but some don't. This isn't about kissing Anthony Rubin's ass or Drew Hernandez or James O'Keefe. It's about celebrating our probes that we have financed, all of you supporting us, to go in and kick some ass, giving us pure platinum diamond information to save these children. This is sensational information, damn it. And I don't want people to get punch drunk, and I'm telling myself this. I'm pointing right at all.
Yeah, you're pointing right at me in Canada, asking me to do something, when, on the other hand, you're telling me to hit the road, Jack, right? And even if I could do something, what could I possibly do as an individual? I think it's going to take more of a coordinated effort to do something with the information that they bring to the table, right? In terms of taking it one step further, you know? And just because you take evidence to a court doesn't mean the judge is going to look at it, never mind acknowledge it. And of course, they know that. So by default, it goes back to being fear porn. Right? With no end in sight.
You, three more fingers are back at me. Don't get punch drunk. Don't get conditioned, because we have a survival instinct God gave us. When we're in crisis, just get used to it and blow it off. And I'm the worst at that. We've got to really internalize this and realize this is the heat of the battle now. This is the crux. We're entering the fulcrum, is what I'm trying to say, Anthony.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, as far as getting punch drunk, most people are. It's really sad because I don't like to generalize. I don't like to say that about fellow Americans. I think that's not right, because most people are intelligent, but they're just not aware of what's going on.
When the government's smuggling 500,000 kids in sex rings and 22 million people in total collapse and feces and illegal alien camps everywhere and devalued dollars and World War III, we need to wake the hell up, people! It's not like, oh, 100%. Anthony Rubin's so great, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson. No, we're not so great. Everybody should be just as engaged as we are, and then our problems will end very quickly. Sorry, I'm going to stop ranting. I'm going to skip the break. I'm going to shut up. Go ahead.
No, listen, I completely agree with you. I mean, yeah, 100%. Listen, here's the deal. You don't have to be Alex Jones. You don't have to be James O'Keefe. You don't have to go out with a camera and do this big expose. All you got to do is speak the truth. If every single person watching this decided to stand up right now and speak the truth, not in your echo chamber, but at your place of worship, at your school, at your job, where it's uncomfortable, right, where you might get some nasty looks, we could then turn the ship around. But the thing is, Alex, I would actually venture to say that a lot of your listeners probably don't have the patriotic cojones to go out and just speak, truth to power, or even just speak truth to the people around them. That's like a revolutionary act these days. So start there. It doesn't have to be this big thing. But, most people don't want to do that. But that's where we need to start. Absolutely.
And notice CNN and the New York Times around Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Come on.
That's what's happening. This is not a conspiracy.
All right. We've got like 15 minutes left. You've got the floor. I'm going to shut up. You just keep telling us what's happening, what you're witnessing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, let's get into it. Let's talk for a minute about HIAS, right? The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, because I know that it came out, and this has been known, it's been open information for a while, that Alejandro Mayorkas sat on the board, if you could even believe that. But, it only now is it actually coming into the public eye that this man was deep in HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. What does this organization do? You go through, Panama, or you go through Colombia, you go through the Darien Gap, you get into Panama, you start working your way up. HIAS is down there handing these people maps of the Darien Gap. They're like, here's the boat you get on. Here's, the smuggling route from Nicocli, which is this port town of Colombia, across this isle to the mouth of the Darien Gap. And I have maps from HIAS where it literally shows it's like, here's a boat smuggling route. Here's another boat smuggling route. Of course, they're not going to call them that. They're going to call them migration routes. But it's a smuggling route. That's what it is. And this organization, I believe it was in 2021, got over $40 million in federal taxpayer money. So why the hell are we funding this? But that's what's going on. We're funding the Red Cross. That's another organization. There's the Norwegian Refugee Council. There's Doctors Without Borders, Médicos Sin Fronteras in Espanol, handing out maps, handing out all this stuff, and we are all funding it. So I do just want to mention that. I'm going to continue to say that Alejandro Mayorkas is compromised, and of course he's not going to get removed though. He's still in power right now. Incredible. I'll keep going.
Brother, I'm listening. I'm just if I don't turn my mic off, I'm going to interrupt you because everything you're saying is so true. I'm just trying to give you the floor.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, another thing that we could get into right now is, again, let me just go back to why you had me on originally, I believe, which was the report that we did in New York. Let me just kind of explain how big this is and what we saw. I'm just going to go into the compounds that we saw. You could grasp the scope of that.
Hold on. Okay, I thought I heard a knock, but maybe not. He's not saying anything we don't already know because it's been said time after time after time after time. The yada, 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 yada. The only thing that he did do slightly different this time in terms of being the quote-unquote messenger is he added a few more names to the list of non-profits that are doing what he said they were doing. Right? So there's really no news there. Okay.
And then you could extrapolate that out across the rest of the state of New York, where there's literally, I think, approaching 100 or maybe even more than 100, but that's directionally accurate, of these compounds, these hotels and other places where they hold these illegals.
And again, let's explain. We know the UN model from Europe and here. Then they break them up into the halfway houses and into the Democrats' homes where they own them and milk them and put them to work. This is slavery. Continue.
So let's just talk numbers, right? So the Row Hotel, again, 5th largest hotel in New York City. It's estimated that it costs $500 per head per day for every person that's living in there, okay? So, I mean, that's insane. $500 per head per day. Let's do some math. What does that come out to? $15,000 a month?
By the way, O'Keefe's got them bragging. Oh, we don't take care of them. We just make money off of them. They admit this.
That's right. And well, they actually do take care. I mean, they're handing them out food. You see in the footage.
Whatever they're getting, though, the people doing it are skimming it.
Oh, 100%. It does not cost $500 a head. $15,000 per person in there. Think about that for a second. And then right outside, I actually interviewed a New Yorker, that's in the video, right outside, literally right next to the hotel where you have dumpsters, there's homeless Americans that are scavenging through like rats trying to find morsels of food. It's so sad. I mean, you can't even believe it. Our country is being occupied by
let me ask you that. We saw this in Austin and in San Antonio and in Denver and Illinois. What are the groups that have been thrown to the curb, families digging in dumpsters? How's that happening? Did they not play ball, or did they come across the wrong way, or you don't know? I don't know either.
Oh, you're talking about the illegals that are digging through dumpsters?
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of them are in the camps or have been put out to other groups, but then there's also whole groups of families digging in dumpsters. What's happening there?
I see what you're saying. Well, first of all, this was the American. I mean, look at this guy. This is a homeborn American. This guy grew up here. He's from New Jersey, I believe, originally. And now I saw this guy scavenging through a dumpster right next to the Row Hotel. That's where I'm interviewing him.
Now, I want to be clear. I know citizens are being thrown to the curb. They're kicking veterans out of their government housing. All of the illegals. I want you to speak to that. I'm saying also I see footage of illegals like in Denver who've been kicked to the curb as well. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, what the hell's going to happen? There's not enough room for everybody. I'm not even sure if there's enough housing for everybody unless we start putting them in housing with other people that are currently there.
So the number's so high that the grants and the government money's not even enough. That's why they need the new Ukraine bill, they call a border bill, to give $2.3 billion more to Soros.
It's over 10 million people that have entered under Joe Biden alone. 10 million people. That's more than the entire population of, I believe, almost 20 states or something like that.
It's like 3 Houstons. So let's talk about this guy. I didn't want to poo-poo him. He's obviously starving. Looks like he's 0% body fat. Tell us about this guy.
Well, it kind of speaks for itself. I mean, we could actually get into what you were saying with the illegals that are scavenging around as well. It's quite sad because these people are pawns. I have a heart. You know what I mean? Men are actually the compassionate gender, right? Because men are the providers, and that therefore makes us a bit more compassionate because we understand what it means to provide, and what that comes with. So I'm a compassionate person. When I see a mother from Venezuela with her kids coming up here looking for a better life, I'm not somehow against her or hating on her, but they're being used as pawns.
By the way, that's the same in almost all animal species, not just mammals. that in birds, like eagles or sparrows, the females with the eggs, the male brings the worms, brings the food. We are literally designed to be the providers, and the globalists trying to cut us off saying it's a gender issue is really an attack on women and children.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and making men look like stooges. I mean, we're the providers. We're the ones that build civilization. And I'm not hating on women either. They're great, and we need them.
No, but everybody knows it, and all the real women get it, too. I mean, they're like, yeah, the men. Give us the men.
Right. I mean, I shouldn't even need to qualify these statements. This is like 2 + 2 = 4. But as far as what you were saying with the homeless illegals that are here scavenging for food, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You got 10 million people. They get put into these shelters. And what happens is basically these asylum cities have laws in the books where it's anybody that's homeless is entitled to shelter. And so that's what you have going on here. And they're there for 30-day sprints, and then they could reapply and hopefully get relocated or get to stay at the same shelter. But there's simply not enough room for all these people. And, it shows. All these people are out scavenging for food, sleeping in tents in tent cities all across these blue cities across the country. And there's again, they don't speak English. A lot of them really most of them, 90+% of these people, if they actually make it to court and they show up for court, they have no actual legal recourse here. There's no reason why they should be here. Their asylum case is going to get struck down, and they should be sent back to where they came from, because it is not a reason for asylum to show up and say, I just want a better life. Are you fleeing a war-torn country? Right? Are you fleeing some sort of genocide? Are you fleeing a famine? No. Okay, why are you here? Well, it's better here. We want to be here. That's not a reason for asylum. But now all these people are here. They're all getting put on welfare. We talked to a bunch of people in these tents. They're all waiting for Medicaid. Cloward and Piven, like you said, that's what's going on, while Americans are out there starving.
But now, up until 3 months ago, Biden and Mayorkas said, there isn't a border crisis. Now they admit it. They're blaming it on Trump. But I have a graph here I'll show TV viewers, radio listeners. This is from the Border Patrol. This is from ICE. These are official numbers. And if you look at this, the last 2 years of Obama, he ramps up, he pays the NGOs, he opens up the Walmarts to hold the kids. It goes straight up. Trump gets in, takes him a year to cut it, then it goes way down. Then he puts in Title 42, it goes almost to zero, and then Biden gets in, boom! That tells you, it's Trump's fault. Trump does this, Biden does this. He flips the switch. He says, when I win the election, immediately surge the border. And they say Trump did that. What does that graph say, Anthony Rubin?
Yeah. You see Joe Biden and all these Democrat politicians in the federal government and even state and local governments as well acting like, we care about these downtrodden people, these quote-unquote migrants. We care about these people. We need to support them. Meanwhile, they're being trafficked across the country. I'll give you an example. Southwest Key, that's one of the major organizations that's contracting with the federal government that holds these kids at Walmarts. There's one in Brownsville, this massive former Walmart that's run by Southwest Key. People could look up. You could actually go, if you're living in Texas especially, you could literally go onto Google Maps, type in Southwest Key programs, and you're going to see they actually are listed on Google Maps, and you can see all the different facilities. Actually, I got word after I put out my expose this past October, where I was, showing all these escorts, that they were trying to turn those into basically black sites after they saw my expose, and so they didn't have to actually list them publicly. This is what I was told. But as far as I can tell, they're still listed publicly, so you could actually show up. Now, where am I going with this? These people, on record, people could go watch a documentary I put out, or they could even just Google, go look up Southwest Key child molester, and multiple instances where they have literally somebody. Okay, there was one, for example. This man that was working at a Southwest Key facility was sexually assaulting these kids. The guy had HIV. He was exposing these kids to HIV. Got sentenced to like 20. Oh yeah, got sentenced to like 20-something years.
This is like moths to flame.
Yeah, and then you look, and then the next year it just rolls over, and they get an even bigger contract, hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government. They don't care. I mean, at a minimum.
So let me ask you this in closing, and we love you, and come back soon. I know you're super busy. You're just a total Spartan in this fight. Are we starting to win? There's a big awakening, or are we losing? I mean, how would you describe the battle space right now for these children?
For these children, or for the Republican
Party? Just for all, on the border, yeah, because they're begging for help. They're in hell. Are we in the right direction, or are we getting our ass kicked? What do you think?
Well, I think that, let's put it this way. I think that at least we're starting to build steam, that's for sure. Because you go back a year or two ago, nobody had any idea about HIAS. What the hell is HIAS? You say it to somebody, or it was honestly like a quote-unquote white supremacist conspiracy theory to talk about replacement migration or talk about what was going on at the southern border. Now this is out in the open. And, you have to thank people like Elon Musk, who every single day he puts a magnifying glass in this issue. So in that sense, at least we're starting to shift that Overton window, but they're still flooding us every day. I mean, all this show that's going on in Eagle Pass, but they're still now showing up in Jacumba, California.
No, you're absolutely right, Anthony. What you said is absolutely on target. And so it's a runaway train, but it showed out, took Trump a year or so to even start to get control of it on this
I
craft.
don't know. He just kind of
shows
lost
the Border
me
Patrol
there.
and
He
others
didn't
wanted
really
to
say
do it.
too much
They
now,
were
did he?
able to do it. And so it's a responsibility we have. But I'll say this again. I want to be very, very clear here. County and state police and city police, they're violating so many laws at these centers. Doesn't matter if the feds ignore it. If we have whistleblowers, there's so many ways to indict these NGOs and the things that are going on. And if we start indicting them at the state level, they're going to fold like a house of cards, Anthony.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, when Trump was president, I remember that there was all this back and forth. Is he going to declare a national emergency to get funding for a border wall, right? And it never ended up happening. But, I mean, now because of people like you, I suppose, I'm not trying to, this isn't some big self-aggrandizing thing, but people like me, MarkRaker.com, and all the other great people that are going out of the border, shining a spotlight on this, it's so crystal clear now that it's a national emergency. And if he gets if Trump manages to win this next election, all the information is out there, declare a national emergency, and, we could actually send military down there.
And once they start trying some of the low-level traffickers, they're going to sing like canaries, and then we start arresting the heads of the NGOs right up to George Soros, which Elon Musk is calling for. I don't want to hear bitching about Elon Musk. You don't come out and say arrest the heads of the NGOs if you're not on our team. The act is so dangerous, the New World Order. I don't know if he's perfect or not. I don't know what his game plan is, but he's wrecking their ass, and that's why I get disgusted.
I don't think that's going to happen.
For what they truly are, and the terminology matters.
Now?
Words really do matter, especially in the media, because these corner right there behind me that you guys see on the screen, where some of these military-aged males, every time we would walk in that area, they did not want us going back there. So explain that, Juan. What was the experience? What was the vibe?
I think as soon as we arrived, we could feel the eeriness in the air because, like you said, this area there was no Border Patrol, there were no federal authorities here. It was hard to get to. So Border Patrol units were also struggling to get through that area to pick up these people that crossed illegally. And just as we got there, we could tell that there was a lot of these people that had shady looks in them. Remember that one guy that was rid of all their IDs, that if they get caught with that in the U.S., they do not qualify for any asylum because current immigration law right now states that you need to have tried to seek asylum in other countries.
Years, maybe, and it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most.
Okay. So, with all that said, yada, 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 yada. Ain't nobody finding missing kids. Okay, so I'm going to end it on this. Now, I can only find this one right now. Look how tiny this is, people. This is like so tiny. This would not fit a woman. There's no way. Okay? Those people next door in that house with that mean fucking landlord, I'm telling you, there are no kids. No, it's down in the basement are 3 separate little teeny weeny. You're looking at a rancher that's got a laundry room, right? With one room being rented out in terms of a room. That's it. That's all it is. One room has a little teeny weeny kitchen with it, and another fucking room. Like, when I found this outside, and there was more. Like, this is so tiny. This is for a child. Okay, no woman's gonna fit that man. No way. Like, when I found that shit with that fucking Christmas tree and the Christmas bulbs and everything, and a few other little articles like that with some other miscellaneous stuff, and some other clothes, right? I'm like, I got freaked out. I really did. Like, I got way fucking freaked out.